You guys want to start with
Eric.
You
I
come
love
over
Eric.
here.
Look at this. That's just like just the profile picture. So it looks like he's
You're at the door and.
I think it's funny.
Eric looks like he's frozen.
I know.
Is he moving?
No,
Is
that's
he-
like
is
his
he real?
profile picture. He puts on there. He doesn't even have his camera on.
Then he doesn't, you think he's there?
Yeah.
He looks like he's there, doesn't he? Just at first glance.
Okay, guys, we're at the top of the hour. Hopefully the others that are registered jump on with you guys. So I'm glad you guys are with us, and obviously we got some people here in the office. So interesting topic today. Working with buyers that are sitting on the fence, right? Sitting on the fence. We haven't dealt with that for a little while. There's a little uncertainty in the market right now, so this is kind of exciting. Dan Harding, we've known him for a long time. He's done a bunch of loans for us personally, even on our own portfolio with Wells Fargo. So Dan, I'm gonna let you kind of introduce yourself, tell a little bit about your background and who you are. And then while you're doing that, I'm gonna attempt to share your slide presentation. And we'll just rip into it.
Great, thank
Okay.
you so much. And I'm not gonna go through the slides for probably about 20 minutes.
Okay,
Feel free to
you wanna
pull
just
that
leave
up.
it like this?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I've got it. You just tell me when to share the screen and we'll
And
figure
is
it
this
out.
the clicker?
Yeah. Whoops. Yep, well, I'll get that going too. So if we're just gonna chat for a minute.
Okay.
Pedro, what's up, brother? Can you hear me? Sorry, just gotta. He's up in Oregon. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
As
good
well.
morning. Jeff, thank you for the intro. I have been in the industry for 15 years. I think about 12 years ago, I met Lynn, and you guys have always been so warm and genuine, and also really good at what you do. You know,
Thank you.
anytime I've gotten you guys someone, I feel like they're under contract in like less than a week. Where others, it's just like, we don't know. So yeah, I've been doing this for 15 years, and honestly, I love what I do. I look at it as like I am the customer's advocate, 100%. I work for the bank, but I am on their side. If I can get them better pricing, whatever I can do to make their life easier, make the process better, that's my goal, and that's what I pride myself on, because at the end of the day, all of us lenders, we all do the same thing, right? We all offer the same product. It's how we operate, it's how we communicate that makes a difference. So I've never done a presentation like this before, but and I do, it's not lost on me the absurdity of me trying to train you on how to talk to your clients. I promise you that's not what this is. I really wanted to have an open discussion and hear from everybody about what we can do to help, because the market has shifted significantly. When I first signed up to do this class, I was going to present on something completely different. And the market moves so much, it's like, well, this is a more pressing issue. I think this is something that we can learn from each other. So please chime in, give us your input. I really think that we can learn from each other and find something that's going to be of value as we talk with our buyers and help them get to the point where they are ready to go, because there's a lot of headwinds, there's a lot of uncertainty. It's tough right now. So thank you. So I wanted to ask a question. In general, do you think people are more emotional or?
Yes.
Yes.
Other
option.
I
choose A.
We don't even know what the second one is.
Yeah.
Emotional.
They are.
Freaked outside.
Well, and think about it, when we have like formed an opinion on any topic, and especially as it's reinforced through like social media or sphere of influence, whatnot, that gets embedded. When we're confronted with the other side of the issue, what's our initial reaction?
Depends on the person.
You mean
Sure.
the other's point of view that
The other
is
side of the
opposite of the way we feel?
Yeah.
Skepticism.
Yeah, skepticism.
skepticism, right? We don't believe it, we
I was
dig
like,
in.
Can't be right.
Yeah, right? I mean, who here calls on for sale by owners?
No.
No.
way. Maybe.
It's
So if I said yes, would that continue the dialogue?
He didn't want
Why,
to
yes.
well, yes, I did. Well, my wife's grandpa passed away a couple months ago, and the executor of the estate, she is dead set against using a realtor to sell his home, even though there's actually a realtor in the family. And it's documented fact. You use a realtor, you're going to be able to sell your home for more money. You obviously have a wider range, wider reach, and you're going to sell your home for more. Like, she will not do it, and it's just a nightmare. But she was telling my wife about some calls that she's had from realtors, and like her perspective. Like, I try to kind of help her, nudge her, kind of help her to understand, but she is so dead set against it. So I was going to ask if you guys call on for sale by owners, like it can be pretty brutal. So
Yeah, they're pretty opinionated. And you were saying that social media and content, when you come across a different opinion, it's not as often that people linger on that, because I was listening to a podcast lately and they were talking about how people consume content, and they tend to consume content that agrees with their point of view.
Mhm.
And it validates why they feel that they do. And so the other stuff is like, oh yeah, that's that side's opinion, and there's so much to support me, and I'm right. So
Yeah,
they'll find it
We
anywhere.
have a name for that, it's called bias confirmation.
Bias confirmation, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
it makes you feel better. It like builds you up, like, oh, you're reinforced in your belief and whatnot, So what are your buyers saying right now? What are those conversations like? I know you mentioned.
Well, I've been
Tracy,
trying to
you
get
have
this
someone-
guy to sell his house for a long time, but he needs to buy one. But his issues are that he wants to stay in the same district, but I think he just was afraid of everything. And I tried to get him right as before the rates turned, and then like I couldn't get him. I'm like, okay, well, I can try to find a house in the same district,
Mhm.
Your house could sell for this much more than I quoted you from last year. That didn't even get him off the fence.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I've tried different things.
With a lot of people, it's just uncertainty. Things are changing
Yeah.
and they're not sure what's gonna happen, and so it makes them freeze and they're not making decisions. People always compare the present with the past, not
Mhm.
necessarily looking at
Mhm.
the future, which they should be more future oriented with real estate. And it's like, I missed the window, or I should have done this, or interest rates are too high. And the funny thing is, they can either go up higher or they'll come down. You can refi, it's like, it is what it is. So I think they just need that guy. They need somebody to say, okay, this isn't the end of the world or whatever. We are in a different market, because they're uncertain. So it's kind of fear, kind of uncertainty is the main thing. I think.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And we look at it, I mean, in the media, there's so much negativity around it right now. And the thing that kills me about the media, are they there to inform us, to educate us? Or are they there to sell ads,
Sensationalized
Right.
media.
right?
Viewers.
Have the headline like massive price drops, and you see the stuff, and it creates this frenzy, right? And this narrative that like, oh my gosh, this is, everything's overvalued. There was a report like 3 out of the top 10 cities in the country that are overvalued were in Utah. Like that gets around fast. And I was looking at some media, some stories from last fall, and it was saying, their opinion was like values have peaked, this, that, the other. And I'm just thinking, they've missed out. Like year over year in Utah, we're up 15%. Even with all of the headwinds and the craziness with rates, values are still going up, right? So when we present those facts to our buyers, they kind of dig into their position, right? They don't want to hear it, or they're not ready to commit, right? And so what I think we have to do is take a step back, and before we educate them with this information, we find out where are they coming from. We validate their fears, their concerns, their issues, which they might not fully understand themselves, right? It just feels weird. I think I'm just gonna hold off and see what happens. Like I have a number
Like
of
this
people.
guy, he's already lost out on probably a good $100,000 he could have made on
Yeah.
that, like 4 months ago.
Yeah.
When I was trying to get him to sell his house.
Yeah.
But I can't get this sucker to talk about anything. I'm like, so what you raised here? He just doesn't.
Well, you kind of were talking about it, but a lot of it's the reason that they feel that way is because the misinformation out there, the sensationalized news headlines and stuff like that, they think they know what's going on. And so that's kind of our job, is to give them the real data and what's
Mhm.
really going on, especially in a hyper local market. National data is important, but it's not as relevant.
As what's here.
Well, you know, Jeff, and that's like that one training we had not too long ago where you almost have to kind of step up and assert yourself as the expert. And one way you do that is you Q&A them, right? Where did you get that information?
Mhm.
Who said that? How did you know it? Chances are it was some 20-year-old person that just got out of college that's the author of some stupid article that doesn't know anything about real estate.
And doesn't own their
Right.
house.
And oh, you're reading and listening to that? Okay, well, let me tell you about my perspective and the data, and then you build up your credibility by where you get your data from, why you know what is going on in this market, and then that's your chance to do that. I know, sometimes it's not confrontational, but it's there's another word I'm looking for. When it's qualifying, I guess is another way to say it.
You're empowering
Yeah,
them with information that they can trust.
Informant.
But if they're at the point, if they're at that view that things are overvalued, I'm gonna wait, and you're trying to help them with that, they might dig into their side even more and feel like you're not on their side, feel like you're just trying to sell them.
Yeah.
Right?
So,
So,
one of the other things I've had people say this to me, this is before I was a real estate agent, right? And that's the whole thing about overvalue. And I always go back to the argument of, are you buying the house as an investment or as for utility? Right? You're living in it, you're enjoying it, you're getting benefit from it, your family is provided for, right? That's a huge part of the equation versus, oh, I'm buying, so it's gonna go up 50,000. Are you gonna sell tomorrow? No. Then you enjoy the utility that will provide your family. And I just don't hear that enough, in my opinion. It's always about just cost, potential gain, potential loss. Well, what about all the utility benefits?
right, with investors for sure. But I think too, it's people looking backward and seeing like where the market was, where rates were, and it's just like, that's so deflating. And I found like, as I try to kind of help explain, it's demoralizing, right? Like, it's almost like, yeah, we just got to focus on the future and, where do we see things going based on inventory and whatnot, and try to help them understand. I met with a client a couple months ago, and he was looking at buying a home, and he was interested in seeing scenarios. So we go through a bunch of that, and I'm asking what he does for work, and he says he's a consultant. And so we're talking about that, and I asked him, like, how do you get your clients to buy in, to the recommendations that you make? And it was really interesting. He said, I don't make recommendations. I said, well, what do you do? And so he talked to me about, he had a client in New York, an investment bank, and he met with them. Initially, they were, a little cold to him, because the people he was talking to weren't the people that like brought him in, right? Here's this guy who's going to tell us how to do our job better. So he gets to know them. He asks them so many questions. He's patient. He's genuinely curious about them, their process, their system, even the rationale behind it, right? And he comes to what he thinks will work to help solve the problem that he was brought in to find out, but he doesn't tell them. He keeps asking them questions, hypotheticals, getting them to think about the issue from a different perspective, until one of the managers says, what if we try this? And it happened to be the same thing that he had come up with a few weeks ago, but he wanted them to do it. Because
That'd be their idea.
when it's their idea, they're behind it 100%. So I'm not saying there's a magic like set of questions to ask that's going to get your client to be like, yes, I want to buy.
Dang it.
Damn it, Dan,
Yeah,
that's
I
like-
know, I was really counting on that. Is there some other things gonna hypnotize them, and they're just like, "Good."
Yeah. I wish I should work on that. No, but as we find out more from that, I know you guys are doing this, and you're already doing this. Just find out. I'm doing a lot of ARMs right now, just because with what rates have done, I'd say a third of the loans we're doing now are ARMs. And
For how long?
typically 7 years,
Oh.
because there's a good, nobody knows for sure, but there's a good chance within the next 5, 7, 10 years, I think there's time even next year, we're going to see rates drop. There's going to be a time where it's going to make sense to refinance. So why pay for a 30-year fixed rate, a premium on that? So anyway, when I bring up ARMs, it's really interesting. Everyone has a different background, but their perception is reality. And some of them shut me down immediately. And like, that's totally fine. And we talk about other things, and I'll come back to it and I'll say, just help me understand, what do you know about ARMs? I know there's a lot of misinformation out there. And I'll dig into that and find out, they're drawing off of information from, the housing crisis, the
Yeah.
financial crisis, where there are option arms, where people are making payments that aren't even covering the interest due, which means their mortgage balance is going up each month. And, there's no limit on how much the rate can go up. So like that type of a product doesn't exist today. And so when I find out where they're coming from, their perspective, and then try to help them see where it is now and contrast the differences, it
Where
helps
are your
them.
rates for arms right now?
They're typically 0.3% lower than the 30-year fixed rate for the 7-year arm. The 5-year is better than that, but what I've seen, the
Is there a
7 years
certain
kind of the sweet
section that
spot.
freezes any kind of fluctuation, or is it just you're already subjected to fluctuation in the market?
So after 7 years, so it's fixed for 7 if they use that
Oh,
one.
so it is fixed for the
Fixed
whole
for the
time.
first 7 years.
Okay.
So, and there's no prepayment penalty. They can sell it, they can refinance anytime, no issue. After that 7 years, then there's a lifetime cap and go up 5%, but it can only go up 2% per year. So it's a gradual increase if it ever gets that. So it's just kind of helping
That's a really
them
good option.
understand, because it might be the difference of qualifying or not, depending on where they're at,
No, for sure.
For a lot of people, like you, they know this is not gonna be my forever home. I'm not gonna be here for 30 years. So when you're talking about how long they think they're gonna be in it, they know I'm not gonna be here for 30 years. Why do I need a 30-year fix if I'm not gonna be? I don't know what's gonna happen 5 years from now. I don't know what's gonna happen 7 years from now. And if you look at rates and what has happened, then that takes a lot of, I think, the fear out of it. I personally took great advantage of having an arm when I knew, no, I'm not gonna be here forever. But the difference in the rate was huge.
Mhm.
And it allowed me to pay additional principal. I paid it like I was gonna do, like the higher rate, because it didn't affect my debt to income or where I wanted to be at. And it was great. I saved a lot having an arm on my house for a while. So I think, information, being able to talk to them about what you're paying, what you're looking for, and are you really gonna be here for 30 years? Do you need a 30-year fixed rate?
I know, isn't the whole thing that people stay about 5 years and then. they
Average
move
loan
out?
is 6 years.
Yeah,
People just want to feel like they're in control. So ask these questions. I know you guys are. Ask these questions, get them to talk. Repeat it back what they're saying, that, showing that you understand, gives them a chance to like solidify it in their own minds. I feel like sometimes people just have a feeling, but they just let it stop there. So help them kind of get past that by asking open-ended questions, hypotheticals. For example, I think values are too high, or home prices are too high. Find out, how long have you been looking for a home? Let's go back to square one. Why are we talking in the first place? What is it about your housing situation right now that isn't working? And let them talk, kind of get through that and say, if we think values are too high, what happens to the market when things come down? Like if they've been in the market for the last 2 years, like, do we really want to go back to the market where it's like sight unseen, put in an offer, 30,000 above asking, and like it's trying to win a lottery? Do we really want to go back to that? I mean, you can interpret like, oh, there's price cuts, things are, I'm wary of it. Like, you have a seat at the negotiating table again. Like, that's got to feel good to be there. So just kind of help push them along past that initial doubt to think about it a little bit differently.
Yeah, I can give you some experience from the corporate sales side. 25 years ago, it was more of a model of show up and me, talk about my company, my product. We used to call it show up and throw up, right? And then about 15 years ago, there was a massive change in the sales methodology in companies and how we sold our customers, which turned to what you just said. It's more of a discovery consultative-based approach, where it's all about understanding the customer's business, what their needs are, what their requirements are. And then, it's a two-way street. They have to be able to cooperate with you, right? I mean, and that was always the trick, and the hard part about it was you've got to ask a lot of questions. You have to do a lot of discovery, which is what you're talking about. Why do you want to do this? What's important to you on down the list? If you can get them to do that, then it empowers you to come back to them as a consultant and recommend things based on their needs, right? So that was the whole thing. That was a big shift. 15 years ago, we saw that And it's the same model, it's the exact same thing, is you have to understand, in the corporate world is, we have to understand your business, what you make, how you make it, how you sell it, what your distribution channels are, your pricing structure, that whole thing. You can do the same thing with individuals, it's slightly different, but it's the same thing. Why? And if you understand all those, then you can position and sell to them more effectively.
Well, it's the right thing to do anyway, right? If you were in their shoes,
Yeah.
how would you want to be treated? Like,
How can you recommend something if you don't know what the requirements are?
That approach shows you that you're trying to accomplish their goals, not yours.
It also establishes credibility, because by going through the Q&A, just the questions you ask shows them that you know what you're talking about. Right? And you,
For sure.
the fact that you're able to position all this, ask all these things, it creates a credibility versus saying, hey, you know, I've been in market for 35 years and I used to do this, I used to do that. Just by the nature of the Q&A, they're gonna go, this guy knows what he's talking about.
exactly. It comes through naturally. It's not about you, right?
Exactly.
Thank you. Anyone else want to? That was really good. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, flesh out scenarios, articulate their fears. There's a story of a father and son. The son plays football. For those of you that don't follow, defensive. He's playing defensive line, which his job is just to hit the guy in front of him, try to disrupt the play. Coach moves into linebacker, where he needs to now, he plays behind the defensive line, and his job is to anticipate the play, kind of see where it's going. And the son really struggles. He just goes in and gets blocked immediately. He's ineffective. And the father's trying to help explain him, show him film, and he just can't do it. And finally, the father says, you think it's unmanly to get out of someone's way. Like, you just want to hit him. And the son says, that's right. And as soon as he made that connection, he played differently. Sometimes people have this doubt, this fear that they can't articulate themselves either. Through those questions, and then label that for them, get them to, if they say that's right, that's what you want to hear, because that means you're on the same page. They trust you. They know that you're on their side, and that's when they're going to be open, to your expertise on the market, what's going on.
Well, and to Terry's point too, I think when you ask people questions that they haven't been asked before, they've never articulated their answer before, so they're having to think about how they truly do think about what you ask them, because they've never talked about it before. It's just kind of in this little subconscious thing.
Exactly.
We used to actually have a list, we call them anxiety questions. And look, there'd be like 30 of them, right? And you hit people with these because they're like,
Shake them up.
because it makes, and then you leave, go away, they're sitting in their office, they're thinking, right? And then it brings them around, right? At least it gets their mind. To your point, it's those kind of questions that might get that on the fence.
I've been
guy.
asking his questions,
know,
but
and
he's
yeah.
still stewing in his
But
mind. And
every
he'll
once in a
say
while-
something and then he'll answer a week later.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to bombard him because he's not a driver personality like me, you have to take consideration for who you're talking to. but
Right.
You might.
I
have
don't
to-
know, I
you
think
might have
the
to-
fact that you told me about the arm, I didn't even think about that, but that could actually be
Yeah.
helpful. Is that just conventional? The arms are just conventional, or are they FHA?
Oh, FHA does have one. FHA is so rare. In my world, we don't
Yeah.
see too much of them, but there is an arm. There is an arm out there in FHA. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not sure if I have that.
Somewhere,
But that is, yeah,
but it's predominantly conventional.
yeah. But it's good to asking these questions. And again, it's not to manipulate them. It's to help guide them through their own mental process to where when they have that moment where it connects, like that's magic. That's where they'll be ready for you, to talk about these things and be, more in line.
Plus, it's been via text. I've met with
Yeah,
him
I
once.
would.
I've been trying to get in his house. He had COVID, his kid had
Oh.
COVID, and I need to go back in there and
I would,
ask him more questions.
I would try to
because-
do face-to-face or Zoom.
Because it could be anything. Maybe he thinks his credit's not good, or maybe,
Right.
who knows what it is.
Right.
Yeah, text is not good for
Well,
I don't,
conversation.
And
you
and,
take
know,
what you can get
you- right.
sometimes, because I've already asked him, can I come by? But you have to wait for him to get through.
Q&A and discovery is a two-way street, because it also establishes is your side of the fence, which is do I want to waste my time on this person?
Yes.
You might get to the point where like, you know what,
Yeah,
I'll check back the old drip Sid's good at that,
Yes.
drip, we call it drip campaign.
When
And
he
you stay in
passed up the
touch,
fact
but
that he could get $200,000
But you may
more,
not
I'm
wanna
just
waste
like,
your
all right. You're
you,
not
you might
thinking
want to
straight.
spend your time elsewhere.
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna say.
Any advice for like highly emotional buyers? So where when you do ask questions, they kind of interrupt you almost and they just come back with the same exact answer, like they won't allow you to go deeper. Any advice on that?
It's a hardcore belief system.
Well, you know what I would, sorry.
No,
sorry.
please.
What I would do on that is that's when you answer a question with a question,
Hmm.
right? So they start hitting you with these, so then you can okay, think of the psychiatrist. Tell me how you feel about that. Why do you feel that way? Why is that? Right? So you hit them back, you try to get them to explain
That's what he
why.
learned in therapy.
But then you can't
Shelley
get up
drove me
nervous
to,
because
I've been on the
of
couch
that.
because of this woman forever.
Yeah.
You really have to be a psychologist.
You kind of do, yeah.
Again, it's just discover, to see where they're coming from. I think that's great. Yeah. Answer with a question.
Yeah, I have one person that's in my head right now that I'm dealing with, but every time I ask a question, it's the same answer, and I just can't get deeper past this really big fear
more
that they
superficial.
have.
Sid, I'm not
Yeah.
buying prices are way too.
It's not the real answer.
Sid, I'm not buying prices way too high. Why do you think they're too high?
Well, they're actually a seller buyer, and
Yep,
yeah,
that's
and
my
so it's
Uh-huh.
deeper because there's also you're on both sides, you
Mhm.
know, it's not just trying to get them out there, but. I
So
don't know.
they're just kind of worried where they're gonna go if they sell, is that?
Yeah,
Where
well,
you
they
can't get
just,
them to
they
give you
have
an
this
answer.
like personal reason, like this, like made up, like artificial, I feel like reason of, I don't know, it's hard to.
Some people have a
articulate.
scenario in their head on
Yeah.
how things are supposed to play out, and it doesn't match up with the current market conditions, and
Yeah,
so.
their scenarios, I want to sell at the absolute high and I want to get the deal of the century on the buy
Right.
side.
They're like, well, that was there maybe about 4 months ago, just
Right.
before the rates went up.
But yeah.
But no one can predict that.
That was like a moment in time that hardly ever really exists, really.
I know,
But
everyone
you
has
said
to
it's
anchor into
almost
that.
Oh, but it's
Yeah.
gonna F with people for a long time.
Well, we
It's
just
gonna
had-
linger.
We just had another training that was talking about like anchoring your belief system, and like, that's exactly what buyers and sellers are doing, they're anchoring to that moment in time, and they're comparing
Hmm.
everything
Everything.
now to that one moment in time that like has never even happened before.
Right. Well, I think a lot of people, especially millennials, their feeling is drawn back to the housing crisis or the financial crisis, the Great Recession. You know, they may have gone through this really traumatic event where they almost lost their home, their parent, as they were living with their parents because of what had happened. And they're wanting to protect their own family from having to go through the same thing. I mean, that's very real, so it's asking those questions to get them to talk, to find out more about it. So, things I've seen people say, tell me if you've heard this, I couldn't even afford the home I'm in now with the current prices. Have you heard that?
Right, like you couldn't buy the house that you
Yeah,
Yeah, if you're
live in
priced
now.
out.
with
Yes.
today's price.
it's like, well, how much money did you put down when you bought your home? How much equity do you have now? It's about payment, right? With payment, you can let them know with all this equity that you have, like what other debts do you have? Car loans, credit cards.
Sometimes it's just deeper than that. And you gotta like unravel it, just like you said, you have to like.
Yeah.
Be a psychologist, to figure out what they really want.
One that's come up a lot is, I don't want to lose my rate. They have 275 on their rate. And, if they sell and buy now, their rate's gonna just about double. I mean, that's a real,
Keep
Well, then you
that,
could
save
tell
some
them to
money,
do a
buy
refi.
more.
Yeah.
Airbnb that one,
Yeah.
buy this other house, what do you gotta say?
I wouldn't pay off that loan.
Yeah.
Go get a HELOC on it. I'm just kidding.
right. What is it? Contract for deed, you can seller financing, 6.5%, 7.5%. The cash flow that you have from there will,
But
How
seriously,
possible-
you said-
Just brainstorming on just weird possibilities like that. It may not be the answer that they come to, but it gets them thinking and you might swerve into the real reason it's
exactly.
causing them to go.
So true. They're not gonna think of it on their own.
Yeah.
That is part of our job, is to give them all the options so that they know why they're saying yes to this and what they're saying no to. And it could be overwhelming, and they're gonna have options they didn't realize they had, but it will help us make a decision.
And they feel more empowered too, when they have more information, because then they feel like, oh, I didn't know that before,
Mhm.
or this before. It adds to your credibility, and that really helps them feel empowered, because they had information that they didn't have before.
And they'll be ready for it once you've broken down that barrier to know what is their issue.
But I think sharing stats and data is super important because we're all talking about emotion in the buyers and emotion and fear and this and that. And you can argue that till I've been on calls with Cindy with this one agent or this one client, and there's a lot of crying and tears and, things that go.
And be
they're-
on mute.
But they can't be argumentative if you give them the reality of the situation and the accurate data, whether it's historic interest rates or even appreciation, what the analysts are saying about our market, then it takes the emotion out. They gotta make their decision based on the way things are, not the way they wish they were.
Yeah,
Sometimes too, Jeff, when you share data and info, and you're talking about the broader market, you can also explicitly tell people that you're not unique in the situation. Because sometimes they think, oh, no, it's only me. No, this is very common. And if you can get them to believe that, then they won't feel as freaked out, right? Oh, this is happening to other people too, of course.
Yeah.
Every seller is going through the exact same
Yeah,
thing right now, being so impatient with their house sitting.
so
It shouldn't have been sold by
average,
the minute you listed it.
Yeah.
average time is only 15 days. I saw this on Redfin just barely, 15 days.
They just
Like-
remember when it was like free.
But it used to be 1.5.
I don't know, but it used to
12
be
offers.
means in the past.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That's really what I wanted to do, and all of your comments were great. I hope that was helpful. I did want to go through some slides, some information about what's going on and some unique things about Wells Fargo, and then we'll be done.
Awesome.
Daniel's, I think, or Dan, that's who you're with as well. Oh, was it?
Yeah. And I know I'm the big bank. You don't want to work with me. I'm not here to beat you over the head.
And you're out of Spanish.
Did you literally just say you don't want to work with me?
You,
What the heck, Dan?
it's reverse psychology.
Why won't you work with
Okay.
me?
If I say I have the best programs, the best rates, it's white noise. That's what every lender says. I'm not gonna say that.
Do you?
But we do have things that, I mean, I've been
Yeah.
in the industry for a long time, like 1987 is when I started in banking. So a long time. And I lived through the 80s when I was the 18%, I am freaking never gonna be able to own a house. Oh, 8%, I can do that. And then it was like, what, 2.5%? I'm like, that is like free money. So I have seen like the gambit of it. And I've worked for like about 4 different banks in 30 years and had a lot of different experience. And there are some things that as Dan and I talk and we go out and talk with other people that we do have that are unique just to us. And I'm not gonna steal your thunder.
You're fine. We'll cover it briefly, but that's not the.
Nice setup
I
though.
wanna see that.
I'm on the edge of my seat. Go ahead.
Oh, so excited. Perfect. Just summary what we talked about, mirroring, ask them, they say homes are overpriced. They're overpriced. They're gonna clarify and they're gonna, say it again, you're getting in to finding out more into their concerns. So asking these questions, if you immediately reply with solutions and rebuttals, again, they're not gonna believe you're on their side, they're not gonna listen to you. You can have the best rapport with them, but if they feel like you're just trying to sell them something, they're not gonna listen. Labeling, giving their feelings a name and identify with how they feel. Paraphrase, repeat back in your own words, which shows that you understand and you empathize. And then re-articulate the meaning of what's said, plus acknowledging the underlying feeling. So I want to talk about inflation.
Yeah.
Yay, inflation.
Let's get into it.
So great. So it came back, June just came back last week, higher than expected, 1.3 month over month, which made inflation go from 8.6 to 9.1. When the CPI comes out, they come out each month with a new report. it replaces the month from the previous year. So what's coming out these next 3 months is July, August, and September, which last year were 0.5, 0.3, and 0.4. It came in at 1.3 just last month. So inflation at 9.1, it's going up these next few months because the month that is being replaced is super low compared with what we've seen. So where we're at 9.1, we're probably going to be 10, 11% inflation by October, which is only going to take mortgage rates up. So in the short term here, it's not looking good.
How do we explain that in layman terms?
Oh, just economists are thinking rates are going to go up. Yeah, I
And
don't
you
know.
can talk, I think you can talk about, some of the data, inflation over last year and all of the GDP stuff that they track and look at. This is where all indicators are pointing,
Yeah.
based on what the Fed say, what all the economists say, and all the data that we've seen. This is credible information. It's not just.
And the Fed is going to meet next week. They're going to raise it either 0.75 or 1 point, which people see that and freak out. It's actually good. When they raise it, I'm hoping they raise it 1 point, because then the bond market will interpret it as they're taking inflation seriously. They're going to get this under control. As painful as it makes it for everyone, it needs to happen. Inflation has to come under control. Some economists that I follow believe that the 10-year bond yield, which right now is about 3%, is going to be 2% next year. There's a decent chance we're going to see rates come down.
Is the mortgage-backed security market of the 10-year T-bill what drives your guys' rates mostly?
Yes, it's not directly correlated, but that's what I tell
Those
people.
two,
You want to watch
right?
those? That's massive. Yeah. I mean, it was a couple of years ago, that 10-year bond yield was like 0.46. Like, it was insane. We'd never seen that.
Because that's the big misconception is that people think, well, the Fed's raising rates. Well, that is not what your interest rate is, right?
Exactly. That's HELOCs, that's credit cards, car loans, that's not mortgages. On the mortgage side, I hope they take it up because it's going to make rates come down. The other thing that's going to make rates come down,
Hope they take what?
the Fed rate. If they increase the Fed rate, which takes up credit card rates, home equities, car loans. So it makes everything more expensive for us, which everything is already so expensive.
The other thing too is what's happening internationally. So Europe's market kind of sucks right now, worse than ours.
Yeah.
And so usually what happens is global money flees to safety. And if the US Treasury still is like the best deal in the world, it goes into, to his point, the T-bills. If you're buying them, that pushes the rates down. Price of the bond goes up, the rate goes up.
Yeah.
So it's an inverse relationship.
Yeah, exactly. A recession is coming if we're not already in one. You'll hear people say, oh,
What are your analysts at Wells saying about what's causing inflation? Have they been definitive on that?
no. Nobody predicted this. They were saying we're going to see rates in the mid to high 3s for this year. I mean, everyone was talking about transitory inflation, where like there's so much built up demand. Yeah.
Yes.
But built up demand during the pandemic. Once things are open, people are going to spend. But it's
Are they
out of
saying,
control.
I mean, to me, it's the energy policy. I mean, energy is what's killing us.
Massive.
Are they
Oh, that
saying-
previous slide. How do I go back? 60%.
Yeah.
Year over year.
Mhm.
Because that drives everything.
42 on energy, 60 on gas. Yeah,
Is
because I
this
mean, energy
good
just
since-
ripples through every single thing of the economy. I mean, every product is impacted by it, transportation, manufacturing, on and on.
Mhm. Yeah. But yeah, we don't. Hopefully, we'll see some improvement there.
November 22, that's what's got to happen.
So,
Doesn't change.
This graph, the dark line, the dark bars are recessions. And this is, I know this is small, but this is going back to the 50s. People talk about, on the media will say, unemployment is so low, there's no way we're gonna go into a recession. It's so low, but that's precisely when a recession hits. It's not like, okay, unemployment goes up and then a recession hits. It's as it's going up, time and time again, you'll see it's low, 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 and then it hits. So this big one here was the Great Recession. That was the longest one. You know, and you can see it was going up and then bam, it hit. So right now, and this was the pandemic, massive, and then coming back down. You know, the unemployment report that came out just last month stayed at 3.6, but for the wrong reasons. Over 300,000 people left the job market, meaning they're no longer looking for employment. There was actually over 300,000 losses in jobs, but because over 300,000 people left the market, it stayed stable, stayed the same, but for the wrong reasons, right? Jobless claims, I know this is a couple weeks old, but from May to June 2nd, you can see it's going up a little bit. And continuing claims is ticking up a little bit. Small business, manufacturing, they're all slowing down. You'll be hearing, you know, public companies are talking about, they are not doing it yet, they're talking about
I'm
layoffs.
trying to understand.
Oh, I'm sorry, jobless claims, so unemployment, you're
Oh,
filing for
okay.
unemployment,
Okay,
you're laid off,
okay.
that's ticking up. This is from Redfin for Utah, median sales price, again, 15%. Number of homes sold is down 22% year over year. I know you guys know all this. Homes for sale is up 14% year over year. Days on the market, again, it's only 15 days. That's not very long. Months of supply is only 2 months. That's near record lows.
Is that a national, what does it say?
This is Utah, sorry, this is for Utah. This is
Utah,
pulled from Redfin. I thought this was interesting. Housing demand. So 49% of homes in Utah still sell for above the asking price. And just about the other amount, they're all having price drops. So they're falling in 2 buckets.
Interesting. Yeah, it's like, well, I mean, look at it too, and I mean, you guys probably see this a lot. In this crazy price market, we have people just throw junk out there, right? Oh, my house is in horrible shape, I didn't really fix it up, it's dirty, I'm just gonna sell it for maximum dollar, and they can get away with it for a while, so
Yeah.
it's just. Those are the ones that are probably gonna get penalized, the good
Yeah.
products are still gonna probably sell for.
Exactly.
It's
That's
also
exactly
about
right.
where they price too, because like when the sellers fight us and they really, really want this high price and we're like, we can't justify that, or we put it on, it's.
Yeah, it's all
It's
relative, it's all
That's worse
relative to
when you lower
condition
it,
and
because people
location.
just sit and wait for it to lower it and lower
Yeah.
it.
And then it's your fault, right, for not doing
Exactly.
all the marketing.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just making sure I'm
Is that-
going against my wishes. I'll bring it up. Remember this?
What were you gonna say, Shelley?
I mean, I thought it's irrelevant to what he's talking about, I don't want to else over.
Oh, you're
No,
good.
go ahead.
You're- Okay. And we'll blaze through this. When I get people pre-approved, it's not, I mean, they can, you know, do the 15 minutes online and spit out a pre-approval letter. We don't leave it there.
Is this a different place as a medium home price? I don't know.
This is for Sandy, the next zip code over. I tried for Draper, but because Draper spills
That's
into
median house price
Utah,
for Sandy?
yeah. When it spills into Utah County, it doesn't compute. So
Okay,
median price, historical appreciation going back to when we kept track versus you see it escalating. This is what I showed customers so they understand what the market looks like. Now this is for Salt Lake County, we're at 1.13 million population, you have 375,000 renters, 94,000 of whom can afford based on the metric that I'll show you in just a moment. Household formations, so people needing to buy a home that aren't current. This is, you know, people growing up, getting married, needing a place, or people divorcing, instead of one home, they now need 2 homes. You're gonna have 17,600 this year. Homes being, so out of that, 67% home ownership rate currently in the US. So you're gonna have 11,800 people looking to buy a home.
do you mind sharing your slides with this?
Yeah, I've printed out.
Is this still Redfin?
This isn't,
What's
this
it?
is MBS Highway.
Okay, that's
Um,
what it looked like.
Barry Habib, if he's great. Actual homes being built, 7,194. So the inventory issue is currently still getting worse. Like, we're not keeping up with demand. And this next slide, this is for the county. Average median household income, 147. It's almost triple the national average. but this shows the affordability index. So the person making this much with 20% down, can they afford the median home price?
That's a national, our area, that's
This
the
is-
median
Yeah,
salary.
for Sandy, 84092.
4%.
Just that zip code.
Yeah, I want to, and I looked at Bluffdale, Riverton, they were actually pretty similar, they were a little bit less,
Okay.
but. So I'll show someone, so the median home price, or whatever price range they're looking at, but for this example, we're just looking at the median home price. What is that gonna be worth in 5 years? Again, looking forward, like you were saying, Jeff. Like, it's like, oh my gosh, this same home was only, $590 a couple of years ago. They're looking in the past, that's demotivating. This should motivate them. That home, based on the most conservative appreciation, 4.45%, in 5 years, that home is gonna be worth $925.
That actually helps me thinking about buying a duplex.
It's.
I was like, no.
Just got trees going. Speaking of fence sitters.
Then go back to this one that had the median home price. I just want to see a price per square foot. So you
Yeah.
got a 294 there. Is that 294 right versus 353?
I
Oh,
updated this.
yes.
So which one's accurate?
This was from a couple of weeks ago. when I
So this
first
one's
prepared it.
correct.
This was from, I printed those off yesterday, so
Okay.
that's,
All right, so
That's the
wow,
most.
353 per square foot, that's insane.
Uh-huh.
yeah. Good, I did catch that, but I'm like, it's not gonna matter, I've already printed this off.
Terry.
Like,
Terry was gonna bring it
He's like, well.
There's a couple more tests in here, Terry. Let's see if you grab them.
I'll see if I can sneak it in my
It is Bible City.
So they're capturing 181,000 in fleet. And I know you know this next thing, but I want to share this with you. So the opportunity cost. So let's say I don't want to buy right now. I'm just going to park that 20% down payment that I have saved up in an investment vehicle that's going to make 10%, guaranteed 10% it's going to make, which is good luck, right? For 5 years.
There are some things.
Their down payment is gonna be worth only 91,000 more. So how is it that you can, in real estate, it's only appreciating 4.45, but it's making double what it would make leverage? The multiplier effect, right? You're only putting 20% down in the asset, you're capturing 100% of the appreciation on the asset. You only put 10% down, that's 10 times multiplier.
Can't do that in the stock market. Gotta pay.
No?
Unless you're doing a margin, but that's.
Yeah.
You know, Dan, we got to put the bottom of the slide is what I said before, the utility, the soft cost or the soft benefit of utility of ownership. It's not just about the numbers.
It's not. That's right.
Well, then another thing to factor in this is locking in their payment because rents are ridiculous.
Massive. Utah was one of the worst. Nationally, it was up 14%.
Depends on your perspective, I think it's the best.
Oh. You have a nice farm system, like, when they're ready to buy, hey, like,
Yep.
but if you want to stay there, yeah, it's crazy. So really quickly, what I can do that's a little bit different, I can lend in all 50 states. Your lender probably can do Utah and maybe one other one. I can do in all 50. So you have someone that, you keep in contact with them, they're buying a second
We've
home in
done
Alaska.
Arizona, California, New Mexico.
North
New York,
Carolina,
North
we have one in
Carolina,
Georgia. so I think
Florida,
Yeah.
Tennessee. Yeah, so we've done a lot.
I had to throw in absurd, I'm not a salesperson,
Absurd
absurd
pricing.
pricing for customers getting a loan over
What
647.
is
This is a
that?
jumbo
Give
loan.
me that pricing, give it.
There's
Is
a
it?
quote in there, 4.625% for a 30-year fixed rate on a jumbo loan
Wow.
with
So
20%
that's like
down.
that's the whole point.
It's crazy. And we also have relationship discount, which I don't love because it just rewards the people that have all the money anyway, but I'm not a socialist. For every 250,000 they have with Wells or move into Wells, we give them an 1/8% rate discount, up to 0.5%. So if they have $1 million and they move over to us, and it's not collateralized, it doesn't have to sit, it just has to sit there until closing, then they can move it right back out. They'll get a 0.5% rate discount. So they could be at 4.125 on a 30-year fixed rate. And then if we're looking at an ARM, now we're at 3.75. like
For a jumbo.
for a jumbo loan. So over 647 in Salt Lake County. This is a big one. Clients building a home can lock in from day one, once they have the contract with the builder.
Can you do that for up to like 4?
Yeah, residential is up to 4 units.
Okay.
Anything over 4 is commercial.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have any of you helped someone build a home in the last year? Okay.
So that rate lock,
Not physically, but.
you're saying that rate lock is when they go under contract and it's good for the duration of the construction period? With no,
1 year, up to 1 year on conventional,
Up to 1 year.
up to 2 years on jumbo.
wow, that's really,
And we've
that's
been able
amazing.
to extend when there are builder delays.
There's builder delays, and I'd love to say it's because Wells is awesome, but it's because of a lawsuit. We cannot charge lock extension fees. So if there's builder delays, we cover the lock extensions for free for them. So when they lock in, like, it will not be any worse than that. If rates get better, they can get better pricing. We have a free float down once the home is within 2 months of being completed. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's huge, because most lenders that I've talked to, they're 45 days, 30 days, you know, they're just, or they can go out 60 to 90 to pay up for that.
You pay a significant amount.
Yeah, my guy's been waiting for like over a year to lock his rate.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
He
see,
just
he
barely
probably
did
got
last week.
pre-approved. He got pre-approved at like 3%, and now
Now it's,
mid
yes,
fives.
yes.
For sure. This is massive, and we're trying to get the word out. There's a lot of cancellations with builders because rates have gone up so much and they didn't lock in with their leverage.
And
This
they
gives them
probably
reason.
don't qualify anymore.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Investment properties, there's an estimate in there as well. It's based on 25% down, 30-year fixed rate is at 5.875. So we're really competitive on second home and investment properties as well.
What do you require? Oh, 25%.
You don't require, we only require 15% down, but 25% down is significantly better pricing on
Okay.
investment.
What kind of credit score are you looking at?
That was based on 740,
Okay.
conventional, I think 740 or above is
Okay.
gets them the best pricing.
Back to the building, how early can they lock with you? Say that
Once
again.
they're under contract
From contract to close.
with the builder,
Okay.
they have to know the property address. Because the rate
We'll
lock
have
is
an
based.
accepted contract.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good reason, on a recent bill that I was in, even the preferred lender of the builder, they tried to push on you, they wouldn't even lock, right?
No.
In nothing like that, so that's.
Yeah, they're starting to come out with programs to mimic this just because it's so needed right now.
But a lot of what we're seeing is they won't go as long.
Or they're more
And
more
it's-
costly.
They're more costly.
Yeah, so on the year lock, for example, they pay 3/8 of a point upfront. So saying it's a $500,000 loan, they pay about $1,700 to lock in that rate. They have to pay it within 3 weeks of locking in, but it protects them the entire time.
With you?
Mhm. Yeah,
You said how much?
So that it comes at a
3/8
cost.
of a percent of a point, I should say. Most places charge 1 point that have a year-long lock, they pay 1 point. Our
What happens
3%.
when you get past that? If you get past it, like this guy's been waiting a year.
We
and a half.
extend for free for them.
Okay.
I've had one where it's not meant to game the system. If it's we lock for 4 months, but it's a year-long build, like, that's not good, but the builder's never gonna say, oh, it's gonna be ready then. They'll give a range. And as long as we lock within that range, I mean, we've had loans close, ones in March that they were supposed to close last October, so we extended for 5 months for free for the customer because there were builder delays, it was out of their control, and we were able to do it.
Okay.
We have something that competes with FHA, it's only 3% down, reduced interest rate, reduced mortgage insurance. So we help people that, the first time home buyers as well. It's substantially better than FHA. FHA really is, if they cannot qualify for conventional, it's nice to have FHA as a backup, but this is a superior program.
And when you say we, that's a Wells Fargo
That's a
product.
Wells Fargo product, yeah.
Well, I have clients that need 100% financing.
We don't-
They can only do that FHA.
Yeah, so Utah Housing, right? FHA requires 3.5% down, but with Utah Housing, which we don't have at Wells, they can do that. Where we can do 100% financing is if they're veteran or if they're rural, USDA.
Oh,
So
okay.
close by, you have Saratoga Springs, Eagle Mountain, Tooele. Where they can do a USDA loan. Then on VA loans, we don't charge veterans our processing fee. We do well with that.
So for you guys on Zoom and for here, this slide's probably a really important one for you to take note on, because when your clients say, yeah, I got pre-qualified with so-and-so, it's kind of like our job we were talking about earlier about giving them their options. They got pre-qualified for whatever it is that lender could do for them. There is value in having getting pre-qualified with somebody else like Dan that says, well, I'm pre-qualifying you and I can do these certain things for you. Banks historically get a bad rap because a broker's gonna say, I can go anywhere. I got all these other lender choices and stuff like that. But the positive side is they have things that others don't answer or offer.
Right, and it's nice to have niche, right? If we all do the exact same thing, we're all just, it doesn't matter where you go. So I like that we have a certain number of things. I know I'm not the most competitive on things where brokers are gonna be better. You need a 2-week closing, I'm gonna really struggle with that.
Right.
We're getting them done in like 3 weeks in best case scenario, but like we can't do 2 weeks where other people can. Like there's certain things that, and I'll always be upfront with people, because the last thing, you don't want to put them through a process and then at the end not being able to help them. Like that doesn't do anyone any good. So I've done it for 15 years. I know what I can and cannot do. And if there's, something that is a concern, we'll address that up front and get an answer from underwriting.
So
So
I'm talking about that priority buyer letter versus like a full approval.
yeah, really quick, and I know wow. I'm so sorry, guys. I thought we'd be like 30 minutes. Just above.
You asked for interactions.
Because I was talking too much.
I know, seriously, Terry. Beyond a pre-approval, we get a conditional approval letter, which is above a
Yes.
pre-approval. It's not so important now just because the market has shifted so much, but it basically means that puts them almost on par with the cash offer. They're already through underwriting. We've reviewed income, assets, signed off on credit, to where now once they're under contract, do an appraisal. If one's required, we might have a waiver on that, title work, homeowners insurance, and they're done. So I suggest that everyone does that just to have that piece out of the way, especially if they're self-employed. They don't know what their income is. If a pre-approval letter is based on what they tell you, it's not worth the piece of paper it's printed on. Like, you've got to see tax returns and have that.
Explain to them a situation where somebody might get it and what would bring up an appraisal waiver.
So it depends. It's crazy. Like the criteria is so it's nothing, right? On a primary home, it's 10% equity. But I've had people where the home is worth over $1 million. We're doing a $200,000 loan. They have 800 credit, and we still have to do an appraisal. Where someone doing cash out, their credit's 660. We're going up to 70% loan to value. I'm thinking, oh, for sure we'll have to do an appraisal, and we get the waiver of that one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's based on the property. It's based on the overall risk factors. But on some cases, I think what it is when Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac don't have like significant information in that area. If it's a more of a rural area, it's harder to get appraisal waivers on. That one I was just telling you about was in Payson, which to me, that's not rural. I live in
Yeah.
Mapleton. Like that's right there. But
This is
anyway.
the next big thing, man.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, appraisal waivers, once we have a contract, once we have the address, we can see it. I'll let them know that same day if we have.
So it's just kind of like winning a prize. or
Yeah,
something.
I tell you, it's not something that like, I never want to sell someone on that, like, oh, we'll be able to do this without appraisal, because it's not up to me.
Sure.
It's the system, so.
Is that a new thing? I didn't know you could. do
Yeah.
an appraisal.
In the last couple of years, it's rolled out slowly, and they've actually, on Wells Fargo side, we have it available on jumbo loans now. We didn't have it before, and like new construction, which to me is crazy, but yeah, our investors will take it.
I could see on new construction.
When you get to your last slide. go
I'm
back
not
to-
going, I'm not.
Okay, go back to your first one then, just so that those that didn't screenshot your contact info.
It's all blurry, but
I got business cards for each year.
Thanks, Dan.
thank you so much.
Anybody on Zoom have any questions or comments, any input for Dan before we let you go?
You have Florida, Oregon, on there too, out of state, just. so you know.
Cool. Thank you so much, you guys. I really appreciate it. It's been.
That was good,
It's my
Dan.
first time doing something like
Daily rates
this.
on the arms.
What's that?
Do a way to get your daily rates on the arms.
I can send that to you.
Okay.
Yeah, and a link to where you can pull it on the website.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here. I'm gonna log this off. Reach out if I can do anything for you. Love you, Pedro. Good to see you.